Coming back out of the garden centre because I couldn't remember what I went in there for. Cute, isn't it? Don't you think? Unlike the Amica that I have in the yard, which is a small car that manages to be incredibly gopping, this one is really cute. Hyundai is a South Korean car manufacturer, and this car was designed by the man who designed it. Now, what was his name? Can't think of what his name was. It'll come to me later on. The rear lamps look like sweets. 14-inch alloys that don't look too small. And a friendly little face. He's called Horace. That's right, Horace. Yes, it's a very friendly little face indeed. The name, Hyundai. That's how we pronounced it. For many, many happy years, we pronounced it as Hyundai. And then the advertisements came along and pronounced it Hyundai, telling us that we're all doing it wrong, making us feel insignificant and stupid. The South Koreans giving us a lecture on how to speak English. Well, I'm still going to call it Hyundai, okay? I mean, really, in this country, we don't pronounce Renault as Renault or Citroën as Citroën, because it just sounds wrong, doesn't it? So calling this a Hyundai and a Skoda suddenly Skoda, it just goes against the grain somewhat. Okay, back to the car. Now, its looks are, they can't really be subjective even, because it just looks quite cute. It looks okay. It doesn't have anything particularly outstanding about its visual appeal. There's nothing exciting. It's all right, isn't it? The Hyundai i10. It's all right. It has a boot, which is quite small. It comes in 5 doors, and only 5 doors. There is no sporty version of this car, although there is a diesel version, which just seems completely pointless to me. Door shut sounds. I think I'm going to give up on doing door shut sounds, to be honest. Let's try the rear legroom. Well, gosh, rear legroom is actually fantastic. Look at that. I mean, that is with the passenger seat all the way forward, whereas when it's in the normal position, it's probably going to be a bit tricky. But do you know what though? I have experienced worse in bigger cars. And it's clearly designed for small people in the back though, due to these headrests. Look at that. Look at the position of the headrest and my back. So the headrest is actually pushing on my back. So if I raise that to its highest place, then that's okay. That's fine now. There's an awful lot of flex on it. So if I put it halfway, like that there, it still kind of digs in my neck a little bit. That's a strange one. Let's have a look at some of the interior quality materials, etc. Let's remember something here. This car was designed as a budget car. It wasn't supposed to be anything that special. So it's almost pointless talking about the interior quality, but I'm going to anyway. So things I don't particularly like, but I can still forgive because of what it is. As to be expected, that is not a nice material to have as a door card. And then of course the same material is used on the dashboard, but it's solid, isn't it? It's solid enough, and although it doesn't look like it's a premium car, it drives like it is. What I mean by that is that it doesn't rattle, it doesn't squeak, it's screwed together properly. And that's more important than having really nice materials that aren't put together properly, like you might get in a yeah, the gear knob it's got a very short shift to it. Well, actually it looks like it's going to be short, but it's longer than you'd expect, but it's very close to hand. Very useful if you've got short arms. These dials here, they're functional, but quite old-fashioned, and I don't mind that. We have aircon, and I would imagine it would use up quite a lot of fuel getting yourself cool. God blimey, he's going a bit, isn't he? These air vents, this thing here is quite nice. These air vents are quite nice. These buttons are Oh, I've switched it on by accident. Let's switch it back off again. These buttons here, all as you'd expect, they just work. Okay, that's a nice air vent. That one. What is that? When did we last see an air vent like that? What car was it in? Who can tell me what car has an air vent that looks just like that? And we have the instrument binnacle, which is clear to read. Yes, very clear, very nice. We also have a front fog lamp. The front fog lamps are particularly useful for dazzling people in the drizzle. Auxiliary iPod and USB. But amazingly enough, this car has something that was considered one time to be a luxury. And I'm not talking about airbags, because if you don't like airbags, you can buy one from the Philippines and it doesn't have airbags. I'm talking, of course, about electric windows. 4 electric windows. How generous is that? Oh! 1.2 petrol, 85 PS. The key has that strange thing that to take it back out again, you've got to push it in. So you put it in like that, and then when you want to take it out, it's kind of locked until you push it in, which is, I don't understand why did they need to do that? The engine's lovely and quiet and tick over, and is reasonably eager to go. It has a 1.1 4-cylinder engine in it. And guess what? That has 64 brake horsepower. But you'd imagine, well, it's only a small car, isn't it? The old Peugeot 205 with its 1.4 only had 74 brake horsepower, and that was a quick little car. But what about this? No, it's not. It is only small and perfectly formed, but 0 to 60 in 17 seconds, 17 and a bit, comes to think of it, and that's when you're really doing your best. So there's not really even a lot of point in trying to make it go that fast. Anyway, there's something more important than being fast, and that's the perception of it. I mean, a car like this can feel really rather zippy because of its eager small engine. It's fizzy, it's hysterical once it gets going, if it gets going. And you know, that's enough. Does it feel too slow? No, it doesn't actually. It feels okay. A car like this is all about being easy to drive rather than being exciting to drive. Because let's face it, if you're somebody who just wants a car for doing everyday things, normally round town type of things, you don't want it to be exciting, because exciting in many ways equals scary. And cars like this effectively mobilise the pensioners and those that really wouldn't want to do it in a big clunky thing. So instead what we have is a small car with easy steering, sharp brakes, firm yet compliant suspension, and well, the gearbox is easy to use if it's ever so slightly on the notchy side. I'm just going to see how well I can adjust the seat whilst I'm on the move, which isn't what you're supposed to do. Ah, that's a bit better. We're slightly in that kind of sat in a wooden chair at church feeling about it just then. Average to slightly tall man such as me position, that's not too bad. I'm not sat bolt upright, and I'm reasonably comfortable as well. It does come at a cost though. The rear passengers that are non-existent at the moment are suffering. Yeah, they're really uncomfortable. They're saying, do you mind moving your seat forward a little bit? I can't put any, I've got nowhere to put my legs. Where do you expect my legs to go, eh? Where can they go? They certainly can't go here behind your seat because there's no bloody room. Yeah, get a taxi then. Amongst all these obvious things though, what's it actually like to drive? It's good actually. It's pleasant. It's one of those happy cars. It does drive well. It's planted. It steers in the way that you want it to do. And I've got to say, I find it rather nice. Yeah, it's good. And the thing is, the question is always, would you like one? Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like one, but I'd certainly happily drive one. How many gears has it got? Oh, it's got 5. Or they've not gone down the route of bunging an extra gear on that you couldn't possibly use. I wouldn't go as far as to say that the chassis is chuckable, because it kind of isn't. But it's still For the kind of person that would drive a car like this, they're not going to be wanting to fling it around corners everywhere and embarrassing themselves and their passengers in order just to try and make themselves feel brave. It's got a number on the dashboard telling you when you should change gear. That's handy, especially if you drive along looking at the dashboard rather than the road. The engine in this car is indeed a 1.2, which has 80 brake horsepower. That's what that relates to, 80 brake horsepower. So we may as well give it a little bit of go. So because it's got 80 brake horsepower instead of 64, that means it won't be taking 17 and a bit seconds to get to 60. No, it'll be taking about 14 probably, which is still, you know, a couple of days, but it is enough. And the word enough is more important than more than enough, I think, for cars like this and for any cars, because what you want is enough. If you've got more than enough, then you've got more than what you want, and we all know this. Why do we all do we all want so much in our lives? Why do we want more than we can use? Hey, why? Do you tell me? Let's try out the horn. Yeah, exactly as I would have expected. You know, the kind of horn that says, "Excuse me, hope you don't mind, but you're about to crash into me. Would you mind taking some evasive action, please?" In conclusion with this, I'm going to say that overall, I really like it. I think it's a really pleasant, happy little car. On the happiness scale, and of course there is one, it's not as happy as some cars I've driven, but you know, that would be really weird, wouldn't it? We can't expect everything to be as happy as a dog. We can't expect all cars to be as happy as a Staffordshire Bull Terrier running around after a stick. But, and I'm going to say this here, this car is happier than what most people would need it to be, because so often I come back to this point of, it's a car. It's supposed to do a car's job, and this does a car's job. It just happens to enjoy doing it as well. And I think that makes it great. I think that makes this a really good car for most people to buy. I think this car is cool. Yeah, cool, and I mean cool as in the proper sense of cool, you know? And do you know what that is? I bet you don't. Now, to some people, a cool car is a Range Rover or a BMW or even, you know, an Audi. I don't know how, but that's what they would think. Or to others, a cool car is a classic car, a big American barge. Or to some as well, they might think, well, it's just something that is clearly exceedingly expensive, and that's why they shout about it being so expensive. But actually, what is cool? Cool is being laid back and simply not caring about what other people think. You cannot be cool whilst you're concerned about what other people think, can you? No. And this is the kind of car you buy because you're not trying to impress your friends or anybody else. It's a car that does its job, and therefore it is cool. Case closed. So not cool to me is anything absolutely lavished in technology for the sake of having technology, for the purpose of telling your friends that your car has this and it can do that and it can park itself and it can order muffins via Waitrose whilst you're asleep. All of that stuff is quite simply showing off, and there is nothing cool about showing off. Why don't these people get this? Honestly, I feel like I'm properly singing this car's praises, but I can't find anything to dislike about it. Not that, you know, I drive a car with a view to trying to find things I dislike about them in the first place. It's just that it just doesn't seem to have anything. Cars like this are entirely forgivable for any of their faults, that's the thing. Because they're made cheap, because they serve a purpose. There's senior mustard. If you had a luxury car or a premium quality car and it had materials on the door cards like that, you'd hate it. You'd find that unforgivable in fact. But with this, it's what you'd expect. It would be possible to buy one of these and find it a bit boring, I suppose. You know, it's not meant to excite you. the best bit about it is it's just an honest car, and because of that you can get bored with it if you like, but you'd never hate it. You wouldn't find yourself wishing someone would steal it. Anyway, on that rather unexpected conclusion, it's nice to be able to take a car back to its rightful owner and not say, oh, I'm sorry, I really didn't like it, but I've got to be honest and all this kind of thing. You know, I'd like to like it, but I just didn't, and I couldn't help but point things out that I thought was awful. No, I can hand it back and say, yeah, that wasn't bad. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking all of my videos. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for becoming a channel member. Thank you to everyone who comments, and just thank you again. Bye bye.